In this Mouthpiece Monday, I'm raising the standards. I mean course standards. How do you, as a dive student, know what your instructor is supposed to be teaching you on any given dive course? Pocari sweat, made from the sweat of a real Pocari, so you know it's good. It's Japanese Gatorade, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Divers Ready. My name's James. As always, so great to see all of your smiling faces, and thanks for choosing to spend your time with me. This is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Today we're going to be looking at course standards. What are they? Why do they matter? And how do you know if your instructor is following them? First, what do I mean by course standards? The course standards are the specific requirements and limitations applied by the SCUBA training agencies which tell instructors what they can and cannot do whilst teaching a course. Every agency offered course has its own set of standards. So for an example, let's look at an easy one from the SDI, that's the training agency, open water course regarding the swimming evaluation. It says the swimming evaluation must be completed prior to any scuba skills taught. A distance swim of 200 meters non-stop using any stroke without the use of mask, snorkel or any swimming aids, or 300 meters non-stop using mask, snorkel and fins. B. A survival swim float of 10 minutes. Note, if an exposure suit is worn for any of the above skills, the wearer must be neutrally buoyant at the surface. Well, that seems clear enough, easy to follow, right? How could this standard possibly be broken? Well, I have personally witnessed instructors not have their students swim the full distance. I've seen instructors allow their students to stop halfway when it clearly says it's a non-stop swim. I've seen instructors allow students to rest at the pool's edge during the float, and I've known instructors to completely omit the swim evaluation altogether. And yet this is the simplest skill for the instructor. They don't have to do anything. You're not teaching people to swim, you're checking that they can swim before you teach them to dive. You're just watching somebody swim. Why would an instructor break this standard? Well, I can only think of two reasons. Number one, laziness, or number two, time constraints. But that standard is in place for a very good reason. Of course, to become a scuba diver, you need to prove that you know how to swim. It makes sense. 200 meters is a reasonable ask. When you come and take a dive course with me, the first two parts of the training are exactly the same, regardless of which course we're doing. The first thing you're going to do is fill out your paperwork, your medical declaration, and your assumption of risk liability release form. The second thing we're going to do is go line by line through the course standards for the course that you've bought. And if any of my students are watching this, please confirm that that is in fact in the comment section down below. Just be like, yeah, I took this course with James, true story, he went through the standards. I do this for a few very good reasons. First, I want to set expectations. I want the students to know exactly what they need to do in order to pass the course and receive certification. That way, at the end of the course, if a student hasn't met the requirements or is not up to the performance standards, I never have to have an awkward, sorry you didn't pass conversation. It's not a surprise for the student because the student already knows they didn't pass because I set the expectations on day one. Also, going through the agency standards helps set the limits for training. I tell open water students the limit for this level of training is 18 meters or 60 feet. So no, we won't be going to the Spiegel Grove on your open water course because the very top of that wreck is 20 meters or 66 feet. And no, we can't hover above it at 18 meters or 60 feet because there's usually strong current. Only an idiotic instructor would take open water students to the Spiegel Grove. Lastly, perhaps most importantly, I go through the course standards with my students because it creates transparency. Not only do I show my students the course standards, I also show them where they can find them for their future reference. As an instructor, this is a really easy way for me to assure my students that I am doing a thorough job with their training. This is the course you have paid me money to teach you. This is what you are paying me for. These are the limits I am not allowed to exceed. It allows my students to hold me as their instructor accountable for their training. Now, think about the last SCUBA course that you took and ask yourself, how can you be sure that you received the full training you paid for? How do you know, as the student, if your instructor cut any corners or skipped any skills or cut dives short or broke standards in any way? The answer is you won't unless you know what the official standards are for that course. Okay, James. Point made, put the hammer down. So where do I, student diver, find these standards of which you speak? It's fair that I have a bad reputation for shitting on the training agencies. It's true that I think that they are actually more important than they really are to our sport. A training agency is just selling books and e-courses. That's it. That's their main revenue stream. That's their job. Bookseller, not dive instructor. But in order to be an instructor and pay training agencies, any of the training agencies, for the privilege of selling their poor quality, dated, spelling and grammar mistake-ridden tomes, you have to agree to adhere to the minimum standards for each course, which the WRSTC, World Recreational Scuba Training Council, have all agreed upon. The WRSTC being comprised of the major international training agencies' executives. So for the most part, course standards are purchased by the instructors when they do their instructor training. When I became an instructor, I completed a PADI instructor exam. Part of that process is a written exam on standards, so you have to study them in detail, and after I passed that, I could log into the PADI instructor portal, the secret closet of PADI standards, and review course standards so I knew what I had to teach. In making this video, I asked myself, well, if I was a potential open water student shopping around for training, where can I review the course standards for an open water course from, let's say, the top 3 training agencies? Not the marketing material, not the course outline, the actual instructor's standards. So I went looking. All right, let's start with the biggest, which is, of course, PADI. PADI, long story short, forget about it. It seems they remain a closely guarded secret. I can't find the PADI open water standards anywhere in their public domain. Of course, it's the internet, it's Google. You can find them leaked by other people, but on PADI's website itself, I cannot find the standards anywhere. The best I could do was find a vague FAQ. So I emailed customer service from PADI, from a fake email address, because let's be honest, they probably have my real email address blocked already, and I have yet to receive a response at time of recording this video. If I do get a response, I will copy paste it and pin it to the comment section of this video, so check back down there. SSI was a little more encouraging before ultimately being rubbish. There was a view standards button on their open water diver course page, but unfortunately that opened a pop-up box which went to a login box where you have to create an account, then create a profile, and then they email you and you have to guarantee that's your email and confirm, and then eventually you land on a profile page that they've created for you on their home portal page where you can view the standards for free diving and fucking mermaid diver course, but no open water diver course. So I went back to the open water page, and it turns out you actually have to buy the course first to be able to view the standards. So that view standards button was basically a lie. Basically, I'd have to commit to SSI, purchase their course before I can see what I'm buying. I'm not an idiot. I want to see the candy before I'll get in the van. I'm not falling for that again. Rubbish. And then SDI, the agency whose books I currently sell to my students. Credit where credit's due. In this simple exercise, SDI has it perfect. As you can see here, I have not logged in. You navigate to the page for the course you're interested in this case open water. You scroll down, there is a link called Standards and Procedures. You click, a PDF opens, and hey presto, the actual course standards that your instructor has to deliver to you. The exact same standards in their instructor manual. Well done, SDI. Excellent job. Really, that's how it should be across the board. In a future video, I'm planning to decipher the wishy-washy legalese standards are written in that ensures that training agencies have absolutely no liability whatsoever and that the entire responsibility is placed on the instructor's shoulders. So subscribe if you haven't, because you're not going to want to miss that one. Standards are there for everyone's safety. There is never a good reason for an instructor to break standards, just lots of poor excuses. But as demonstrated, it can be difficult for a student diver to know if their instructor is delivering the full course or not. So my advice to you, student diver, is this. Next time you want to buy a scuba course from a dive instructor, ask them to review the course standards with you so you know what you are buying and you know what the course expectations are. If they refuse to show you, or make excuses, or deflect, that is a massive red flag, and I would strongly, vehemently suggest finding a different instructor. Thanks as always for watching. Please share this video with your last dive instructor or your buddy if you learnt something from it. Please give it the old thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you didn't enjoy this video, hit the thumbs down button twice. Dive safe, dive often.